Hey guys, welcome to Badaboom. I'm Chris. On today's episode, we are reviewing Spy X Family Code White. This is Spy X Family's first movie. It's a popular anime based on a popular manga. We've gotten two seasons, and this is the first movie presented by Crunchyroll. The movie comes out on April 19th, and Troy and I got an early look at the film. So, what did you think, Troy?
Well, I know you're a little bit more into the anime and the manga for this show for this movie, but it was a good movie. Like it was fun. It was lighthearted. There's moments where I'm like, yeah, we're definitely overplaying our hand for getting a dessert recipe, but at the same time, it's that kind of show. It's that kind of movie. It's that kind of manga where you're watching it to have fun and get invested in the characters and see how they interact with each other, where like the plot itself isn't super serious, but they're doing very serious things during it, like having a giant battle on top of a air cruiser with a guy that's made up of multiple machine guns.
Yeah, Spy X Family, I think people love it just because it has the setup of sort of Mr. and Mrs. Smith, which is very serious. Hey, you have a spy, you have a great spy, and you have one of the world's deadliest assassins sort of coming
Yeah.
together and, creating this fake family so that they can, infiltrate this prestigious school for Twilight, Lloyd's sort of his job, and you watch it and it's lighthearted and stuff, but then you realize like, oh wait, like this is like they're stopping a war from happening. So it's really cool. And then Anya, she's a psychic, and then you have all these different things going on. But the movie does a really good job of sort of like raising the stakes. I think when you want to watch an anime movie, you sort of want to see things taken a level up, and particularly like that third act you were talking about with the guy, the android with the multiple machine guns, and you have sort of your sort of like going against him. You're like, oh wow, this is what you want to see on the big screen when it comes to an anime adaptation. But it also has the trappings of an anime adaptation where it like raises the stakes just to the point where they never have to address it in the show or the manga. It's like, hey, like this is canon, but we put all the toys back in the toy box by the end
Yeah.
of the movie.
Yeah, and sometimes I feel like that's what they just gotta do for the movies because they want to make the movie, they want to have that this like quick little story be told, but they also need to get back to the manga and the show. But the movie itself, as someone who hasn't seen the show or the manga, like it was a pretty good movie, I'd say. I definitely loved the characters from it. Like Anya is the like spice that happens a lot in this movie for me, where she is driving the plot whether she knows it or not. And Lloyd and Yor are kind of they've got their own points in the plot, but they're reacting a lot to what Anya's kind of throwing them into different messes and different situations. But I really like the relationship that both Lloyd and Yor have, like as parents or fake parents to an extent, because they want what's best for Anya, and Anya knows exactly everything that's going on with them without them knowing it. So it's one of those things, like as a kid, you don't really know sometimes what's going on with your parents, but whenever you sense like things are tense, you get like a weird feeling. So it's cool that like this character has the ability to kind of like read their minds and then be like, oh, let me see how I can fix it in like their own unique way as a child. But I really liked, my favorite thing throughout the movie was trying to see like how is Yor gonna handle these situations that she thinks happening when they're not happening, when Lloyd's actually just trying to do the right thing and like be a good spy. But he just has lots of stuff going on and lots of people just falling all over for him.
Yeah, Lloyd is not that interested in sort of like the James Bond aspect of being a spy, sort of like, the womanizing aspect of it. But, in the movie, sort of like the setup is that, Lloyd and, Yor's relationship is kind of on the fritz because Yor believes that Lloyd is cheating
Yeah.
because she was able to see, him passing by another spy, Nightfall, who actually does love Lloyd, but that relationship really isn't reciprocated. So like that again is sort of the one of the B plots. The A plot is like, hey, like they're going to this town because Anya has this competition, and Lloyd, he's sort of in a spot where his operation, Strix, which is kind of what keeps the family together, is, on the fritz. They're about to sort of like pull the plug. And, Anya's afraid because she's an orphan, so she doesn't want it to be separated. Yor's afraid because she wants to be a good wife. And Lloyd's afraid because he's like, hey, I am a really good spy. There's nothing worse than being reassigned. But the interesting thing about Lloyd as a character is like, yes, he's very serious about his job and sort of global security and making sure that no one's in a position that he was in when he was a kid. But you can tell sort of like beyond, like if you dig deep, he really loves that family and he does want to keep them together, despite sort of him using his job as an excuse.
Yeah, and like you get those moments. Mostly, I feel like after Anya kind of reads their mind. Which, by the way, we've haven't talked about my favorite character yet, which is their dog.
Yeah,
Uh,
Bond.
yeah, I mean the voice actor that's doing this dog, like top tier, top tier. Well done, guys. Uh, you really killed it. I really believe this was a legitimate dog. To all the artists that drew them, like you drew the dog really well. You really made me believe that this dog is truly their friend and truly a part of their family. With some people, when they have pets, their pets are kind of like a peripheral thing, but everyone in the family loves their dog. The voice actor really was selling me at every single point and got me invested in the dog's character arc. So for sure, there's a lot of great things, not just about the dog, but in the overall all film as well. So that's probably my favorite character. I know I was probably thinking maybe it's but just as a quick tangent, their dog's my favorite character.
Nah, my favorite character has to be Anya just because she's such a badass. I think, like there was a point watching the movie where I was like, hey, like, because, Spy X Family is really sort of like about the family. It's a quirky sort of romance and stuff like that. And occasionally the action picks up. But in these movies, like, I'm used to sort of seeing My Hero Academia, Demon Slayer, or Dragon Ball in the theaters where it's like, an hour and a half of a big battle. And this, is much more quaint. They're going to a small town to find, this recipe. But when it does kick into high gear at the end, and you kind of get to see, like your sort of unleash on a cyborg where she doesn't have to hold back, where she has to dig deep and stuff like that, and the way the animation and sort of her going around through the fire and using an axe is amazing. And then also Lloyd gets a really cool moment, with his Mission Impossible mask that he always kind of carries around. You're like, how did he get that mask on?
Yeah, exactly.
There's a scene where he's fighting, and I really like what they did sort of with the animation. Like, him and the Colonel obviously have the same outfit, same face on, but they sort of switched the color and the contrast just so that you could see Lloyd and you could see them sort of battle it out, and you could see him sort of like really kick into high gear as a spy. So I think the end definitely picks it up, and if you're a fan of the series, it's definitely something you'd want to check out. And it's really fun, and sweet. Like, it's hard to kind of like be critical and be like, oh, like, hey, it's typical anime movie where like something happens but it really doesn't matter in the long run. But if you're a fan of the series and these characters, it's definitely a must watch.
Yeah, it's a fun movie. It's a fun watch. Like I said, like I don't know as much about the anime or the manga myself,
But I have to
but
say, like, if you watch this, it's basically the setup of the manga and the anime. It's like,
oh,
hey,
okay.
this family, they came together because of circumstance and this mission, which is the Strix mission, that the Operation Strix, which he's about to get reassigned from. So like you basically saw the whole like anime, like, hey, like, and Anya's in this school so that they could get closer to certain subjects. So you saw it, and I think that's another thing. This is something where you're like, oh, like, I kind of want sort of like a peek into the Spy X Family world. Like, Spy X Family Code White is something you could really dabble into, and it's something like, I think that's also a sign of a really good like anime film. Like, hey, like, I could bring my friend that's never seen an episode or read a chapter of the manga, and they'll be able to follow along and have a good time.
Yeah, exactly. Because like it is something that I feel confident and willing to be able to just say, oh yeah, let me pick up a book, or let me dive into the show now that I've
Or let me
got a
bring my
pretty good,
girlfriend, you know,
yeah,
like,
yeah,
hey,
exactly. Now that I've got a pretty good taste for the show and like what that vibe is like, it's nothing. It's a fun time. It's nothing that's like super serious or like dark. It's, hey, we could put this on and just have something fun and cute to watch together.
yeah. And for me, it's definitely a recommend for anyone that's looking for something fun to watch. And I think these anime movies, as like anime becomes more and more popular, are becoming sort of like events. And this is something, if you're looking at like Spy X Family, it's 2 seasons are available on Crunchyroll, and if you're trying to get that fixed, this is something that I think you should definitely check out. If you see it, let us know what you think. And with that, bada boom.
Bada boom.
Thank you for listening to the Badaboom podcast. Keep the conversation going with Chris and I on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. You can find us on all these places at Badaboom Podcast. Get into the comments on our YouTube channel. Let us know what you like about the show or what you'd like to hear from us in the future. Until next time, please subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen. Thanks for listening.